Hello again. So I wanted to make a comment about this video. This is shows you indoctrination. It's very similar to cults, what's going on in Russia, but it's also what happened, of course, in the Soviet Union. You were forced to think a certain way. Don't criticize the leaders, and that's exactly what's going on in Russia. You can't criticize the regime, the leaders, because then you're going to prison. And people here in the region taken over from Russia, taken over by Ukraine, then states, yeah, what do you think about this war? Well, yeah, it's a war started on 5 or 6 August, which of course didn't. That's 2 years earlier. Or in reality, it started in 2014, and the propaganda already started way before that, probably. I mentioned in one video, possibly that 10 years earlier, the propaganda started against Bandera. Bandera fought the Russians or the Soviets, I should say, and the Germans in World War II. He was captured by the Germans, let go by the Germans because they thought he would be useful to fight against the Soviets, but he fought both. Now the Soviets and the current Russians then disregard all the fighting against the Nazis, the Germans, and say, yeah, they fought us, so he's a Nazi because the Nazis also fought us, which is of course false equivalence. Then the current Russians also employ another false equivalence, namely that they consider themselves the same with their regime as the Soviets, the Russians were living under the Soviet regime, which means they're not critical about the Soviet regime. So you have two equivalences, which are both false. One, Bandera fought the Soviets, therefore he's a Nazi, false. Second, the Soviets are the same as current day Russians, false, different regimes. You're forced to think a certain way. Now, of course, the last few years, this Putler guy has been forcing people to think a certain way. It's become more like the Soviet Union. And if you're speaking out against the regime, you can go to jail. So this is really the same, and it's the same as a cult where the leaders, bad leaders, almost all bad leaders. Note that cults originally does not have a negative meaning. It just means gathering of people who have the same ideas and who are following. You can look it up. It's very interesting how it's changed. But the change has become into, because, and that's what I also found, that's why the change in meaning or use has become apparent, which is that it's almost always negative. Even those who are really doing positive are doing negative. I mentioned that about this group with ecological living who behaved badly towards a friend, and they may have done good things, and I talked recently to two people of that group, by the way. But they did also bad things, and they're not aware of it. It's really weird. They think they're only doing good, and so you have the issue of indoctrination going on. People want to believe a certain way of thinking or doing things is correct, and they disregard all the evidence to the contrary. And that is typical of antisocial behavior. And cults are, so with a negative view of them, but yeah, almost always it is negative. A problem in that there is no self-criticism. There's no criticism of the leader, not of the group. The ideology. In politics, you see it, of course, exactly the same. And if you look at when did this start, so this guy says he was there in 2011 and saw things like they ignored best parts of Russia, they did only good things. That's of course the same. Well, not quite the same. You can neutral. You can also have okay. they were behaving like Germany in the 1930s, in thinking nobody likes us, we want to be strong again, so that even the USA fears us. Why do we need to live under these bad circumstances? We won World War II. Yeah, that's the system. Capitalism and socialism, they are quite different. Capitalism takes advantage of the what you may call bad parts of the personality, selfishness. I mentioned this in a comment, in a reply to a comment with one of my videos. I said that, yeah, socialism doesn't work and capitalism works. Why doesn't socialism work? Because you need to cater to the people to a certain degree. You can be idealistic, but that doesn't work if nobody is like that, or too few people. And too few people are idealistic, so you need to cater to selfishness. That's why capitalism works. And in the post-Soviet Union, Russia went somewhat towards capitalism, but of course the first 15 years or so, 10 years certainly, was a mess. Also caused by the way, American economists who went there to advise them on how to transition to a capitalist economy, which was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Just releasing all prices and letting everything go in one go. That's the stupidest thing ever. Okay, so you have these things going on. You have the indoctrination going on as well, from talking about negatively about Ukraine, Bandera, which made possible the negative attitude of people in the Donbass in particular, but elsewhere as well, and people in Russia itself, looking towards, oh, Ukrainians are Nazis, which is complete bullshit, using these two false equivalences. And it is so simple, and yet it works. Yeah, that's how indoctrination works. It's also the same in cults. When you look at it from the outside, you think these people are idiots. Everything that's going on is nonsense. And people inside are captured in some way. And the way that it happens with some cults is with idealism, actually. They look at something idealistic, they have the idea we're going to do something good, and they're doing actually something bad, but they're convinced they're doing something good. So this indoctrination has been going. I made a video, I suggested it could have been 10 years. However, considering the indoctrination of my friend who left Ukraine and went to Russia a few years ago, just before the war, how quickly that happened, I thought maybe it doesn't even need to have been that long, but it probably had been going on for a long time, probably at least 10-15 years before the takeover of Crimea, so something like 2000, but it could have been also going on in Soviet times. So there's this view of, it's of what the Ukrainians are like, and that they need to do something. Well, this of course complete nonsense. If for example, Germans are living in the Netherlands and it's stated, well, they're being treated there badly. Well, okay, let them go back to Germany. You can offer that as Germany. It's very simple. You don't start a war then about some people who are supposedly treated badly, all this nonsense, what the Russians claim. This is very interesting, all in showing how they're dealing with the oppressive system at the moment, but also the oppressive, the states of people's minds on status and things like that. So this was shown in David Dimbleby's Russia from 2008, and this is exactly what he experienced in 2011. The same attitude, which makes possible what is going on these days in Russia, this war. Okay, that's it for now. Bye.